Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Suzerain, where we just had our inaugural ball crashed by some very unpleasant people. Security has been increased after the murder of Bernard Circus. Mood in the Situation Room was gloomy. My cabinet members were gathered to discuss the shooting outside the palace. Leleus presented the initial report. Bernard Circus was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected independent member of the Assembly, as you know, a famous communist. She spat the last words out with some distaste. The guards at the scene were 50 meters away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as a member of the nationalist organization Young Swords. The president and his family were unharmed, praise God. Yeah, an MP shot near the palace, that is absolutely unacceptable. I agree, we are re-evaluating our security measures, however, the recession has affected my ministry negatively. This may well create a dangerous atmosphere where the left versus right political violence of the 1920s could spark once again. A return to those days would be devastating. The coups are the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. Niamorna, the Minister of Justice, sighed. The Red Youth has condemned the killing, but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. This will in turn spark further aggression from the Young Swords. The whole cycle started because Bernard Circus expressed his views. We can't simply look away. Nia had always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly deserving of the name. She had survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Freedom of expression is part of our constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone an MP, shot for voicing different opinions. Nationalist young swords have overstepped. They must face consequences for such an extreme action. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna go freedom of speech for the fucking fascists. Come on. This is not a simple overstep, and an attack on our country, murder for political opinions, is a thing of the past. Our administration is building something new. Agreed. We will reach out to the NFP and ask them to calm the situation with the young swords. The two groups have ties to Mr. Keebner's have ties, and Mr. Keebner sees reason, after all, which can't be said about the young swords at times. Minister of Defense Joseph Valencia granted this approval. He towered over the rest of us in full military uniform, his many war medals conspicuously on display. All due respect, ma'am, but we shouldn't be quick to jump to conclusions before a field investigation has been conducted. We should refrain from making the issue a political one from the start. It will only add fuel from the fire. But it is political, isn't it? Yes, but we need to calm the country. If we take sides, we could escalate the situation further. There aren't many sides. The state versus its enemies. Several police cars rushed past the Maroon Palace and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation into all involved parties is underway. We will find the subversives and punish them soon enough, Mr. President. I'll do my best to help coordinate the administrative tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return to this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country. We must think about the upcoming budget. We must not lose sight of our real political goals, like the constitutional reform. Agreed, these matters shouldn't distract us from what the people want us to do. Lucien took some notes after checking the latest newspaper and reports. It seems that the tensions between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. will be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there is chaos in the country. We will make this through this and deliver on our promises. Hell yes, President Rain. Calm yourself, Peter. Better. This will be it for today then. We will convene again soon. Thank you all and keep us updated. The meeting concluded and the ministers left the room with a concerned look. It was hard to anticipate what would happen next. Few days later. Okay, plenty of things happening. Police overburdened and Estord. Police understaffed. Soul dam at maximum capacity. Illegal K-74 seized. Young Swords Youth Wing leader dead after terror attack. Illegal firearms found in Communist Party office. Weapons seized in Cultural Center. Communist Party leader suspected of bomb attack. Small Acorns traders. Important critiques trade. Okay, back to work. BFF activity in the capital. Let's have dinner with the family first. After a long day at the palace, I was finally home. Thanks search and walked through the front gates, nodding at the two guards I went by. Even as I turned the doorknob, I could hear Diana rushing down the stairs to greet me. I opened the door and there she was, standing in front of me with expectant eyes. Papa, you're home. Here's my beautiful princess. I lifted Diana and hugged her while trying to put the keys in the tray next to the entrance. She was growing fast. Lifting her up was no longer as easy as it once was. How was school? Boring, like my old school. I like my old school better. I put her down and her expression turned serious. Are the bad men gone? I'll never let anyone hurt you, ever. Okay, Papa. Diana dashed down the hallway. Mama, Papa's here. Monica appeared next to the kitchen door. She was wearing an apron and holding a spatula in her hand. Diana, what did I tell you? No running in the house. Yes, Mama. Monica approached me and kissed me on the cheek. A tantalizing smell wafted from the kitchen behind her. How was your day, dear? Terrific. I finally got to do some grocery shopping just like old times, and I'm making your favorite. You mean... Yes, Zabla. Zabla was one of my hometown specialties. Chickpea stew topped with a beef braised in tomatoes and Bergin spices, traditionally served in a clay pot. It was absolutely my favorite dish, especially paired with cabbage, potent unfiltered wine from my region. Yeah, where's the cabbage? What, you and Peter didn't buzz it up enough back at the palace? Anyway, I just wanted to cheer everyone up a bit. I resent the I resent the accusation. Yes, Peter is a fucking drunk. I haven't drank once. Yet. Her smile faded and she lowered her voice so that Diana wouldn't hear. especially after what happened at the ball. I am worried, Anton, for you, for the children, and for the country. Diana suddenly appeared next to us. Mama. Yes, sweetheart. I'm hungry. We'll eat in just a minute. Will you help me set the table? Anton, can you tell Frank to come down for dinner? He's been sulking in his room all day. Monica started taking out the plates while I headed upstairs to fetch my son. Loud rock and roll music echoed down the hallway from his room. I caught a faint hint of cigarette smoke. Let's knock on the door. Have some respect. I knocked on the door. There was no response. Knock on the door again. Still no response. Okay, knock a little louder. I banged on the door. The stereo in Frank's room clicked off. Alright. So you heard me the first time. He unlocked and opened the door. What do you want? The fuck do you mean, what do I want? Yeah, turn it louder next time. I don't think the neighbors heard. Yeah. Turn it up louder. I don't think the neighbors heard. Frank headed downstairs to the dining room and I followed after. The table was prepared and Monica was ladling food onto the plates. Come on, have a seat. It won't be as tasty if it's cold. As we started eating, the room went quiet. Monica's cooking was delicious as ever, but I had the feeling that wasn't the reason nobody spoke. Monica was the first to break the silence. Say, did you know that they refurbished the grocery store? I don't know if you remember the owner. He's been there every day for the past 30 years. Could you imagine doing the same job for so long? What if you were president for 20 years, for example? I don't think many people would like floating that idea. I don't want this country to suffer under another soul. Agreed, that must never happen again. Anyway, the grocer really is a nice person. He threw in some extra vegetables with my... Frank suddenly slammed his head on the table, rattling the plates. Monica, Diana, and I stared at him. So this is how it's gonna be? We're just going to sit here like nothing happened. Dad, you could have been killed. Mom could have been killed, and one of us could have died. Any one of us could have died. Diana's lower lip started trembling. Monica put her hand on Frank's shoulder. Frank, you know I would never let anything happen to you or Diana, even if it costs me my life. I know, but still. Can you at least tell me if something's being done about this? It was really close, Dad. My security assured me they took all the necessary steps. Yeah, it was one rogue shooter. We were not to target. But what if we were? Frank, listen to your father. If your father says we don't need to worry, then we don't need to worry. You have to trust him. Monica turned to me. We all have to trust each other. Things calmed down a bit. At the table, we finished our food in silence. Frank got up first and retreated back to his room. Monica lifted Diana up and plopped her in front of the living room TV before returning to the table. She sat down across from me. Anton, he's still young. That's what worries me. I made plenty of rash decisions when I was his age. Make plenty of rash decisions now, too. Okay, that's fair. Well, not in this playthrough yet. Frank's not the only one who's scared, Anton. Well, I promise if there's any threat to this family, we will be the first to know. He got up, stood behind me, and massaged my shoulders for a moment before leaving me alone in the dining room. I sat alone at the table and raised my glass of cabbage. Had I been lying to Frank and Diana? Was there a threat to my was my threat to my was the threat to my family truly over? Time would tell. Okay, what's news? CSP faction spotlights workers' rights and report. Morella expresses condolences for Circa. Okay. Let's go to the security briefing. I arrived in front of the doors, leading to the situation room. Today's security briefing was arranged in two parts, starting with internal matters and moving on to external matters after a short break. The Minister of Interior Lilia Scraff and the Minister of Justice and Law Nia Morgna would join us for the first part, the law enforcement briefing. For the second part, the Minister of Defense Josef Lancia would join with a few high-ranking officials, including the Chief of the Armed Forces, Vulcan Kruger. I opened the door. Lucian and Lileas rose from their seats. Sir? Please take your seats. Everyone in the room sat down except for Lucian. He put on his glasses and went through the documents in front of him. Shortly after, he raised his head to address the attendees. Mr. President, ladies, we will kick off today's meeting with the internal security briefing. I am assuming everyone has already been over the agenda. We all have busy schedules, so without further ado, I will jump into our first topic. As we fear, the political atmosphere has worsened. The reports around the country indicate that tensions are rising as we feared. What is the status on the Bernard Serges investigation? I have received news this morning that the investigation into the murder of Bernard Serges has concluded. Great news. I'm eager to hear about the details. After further investigation and testimonies, we have confirmed the motive and also the events leading up to the shooting. A few days prior, members of the Red Youth initiated a violent attack on the Young Swords local leader in Gen. We believe the Young Swords then called for revenge, leading to the death of Mr. Serges. Since he often spoke against the Young Swords and national sentiments in the Assembly, he was a big target, not to mention his radical communist views. Political violence needs to stop. Yes, we've kept the debate for so long, but it seems that there are now new triggers. Elias handed over a report and pointed at the highlighted section in the document. The investigation revealed a very troubling fact. The funding sources of the Red Youth have a clear link to United Contana. Are you sure? Yes, we have found the cash trail. Several Red Youth members with ties to United Contana have been detained, and the information extracted from them points to preparation for a communist uprising in Sorland. It isn't unusual for the superpowers to influence other nations, but I think this case is a little far-fetched. The left lacks popular support in Sorland. Nia eagerly lifted her hand, and I motioned her to speak. I went over the report in detail. It would be wrong to jump to conclusions about a clear foreign interference yet. United Contana has humanitarian and cultural ties with many countries, including Sorland. Yeah, I also don't want to jump to conclusions and immediately. We should create a crisis with them. Nearly 3 decades ago, they funded General Ricard and tried to establish a communist dictatorship in our country. If it was not for Colonel Sol, we would have seen the real crisis. She took a sip from a glass of water and continued. Our police chief, Karl Greiser, has linked a funding channel to the United Continental Consulate in Benby. As we all know, the enemies of Sorland are many, but we must have threats inside the country. We also have threats inside the country. Our country always had issues. This is part of our job. If we give up essential freedoms to purchase temporary security, we deserve neither freedoms nor security. This is debatable, but yes, we know what more security and surveillance caused this country under President Sol. Let's not forget what President Sol, God bless him, brought stability after a long period of bloodshed and chaos. But moving on. Our highest internal threat comes from the estimated 2,000 strong Bloodish Freedom Front, led by the imprisoned Devil Arg. They are a banned political organization, now a militant force that is trying to incite racial violence. Are they supported by our Bloodish citizens? To some extent. Luckily, they couldn't attract a wide audience of Bloods, but they could potentially attract thousands of anti-Bloodish sentiments spread in Sorlin again. If thousands of anti-Bloodish sentiments spread across Sorlin again. Lilius pointed to page 3 in the report. Our intelligence intercepted 2 crates filled with weapons close to the Rumburg border. They were filled with military-grade Ka-74s. We expect that more have been smuggled in. A group of Bloods were caught with these guns at a checkpoint not far away. The government of Bergia, Felix Braun, is already taking necessary measures to counter the threat. Rumburg has been acting aggressively in the region for a long time. I'm not surprised that they would attempt to weaponize the Bloodish people against us. This is worrying, very worrying. We need to keep a level head. Yeah, we need to keep level-headed with Rumburg. They are looking for reasons to take action. They will play dirty while we play nice. It's a battle we will lose. This is grave news, but we must be careful not to stroke the fires of anti-Bloodish sentiment. Unfortunately, Governor Braun is directly causing the tensions to increase with his increasingly anti-Bloodish stance. I must remind you, Governor Braun is directly responsible for the arrest of Devon Argate, the previous leader of the BFF. It's true that his methods can be extreme at times, but it was his policies that kept the region peaceful over the last decade. I wouldn't call this peaceful. He is misusing the powers given to him by Tarkin Sol. The insane authority of the governor is surely a root cause. It would be very difficult to revoke the special status of Bergia under the current circumstances, Miss Morna. The presidents no longer have the authority Tarkin Sol enjoyed. For now, yes, but with enough justification for it, it would be possible. Anyway, we will be discussing this at a later time. Tell me more about the special zone. As you know, Bergia has been given a special status by Tarquin Sol after the full-scale uprising by the BFF against the Swedish government in 1935. Those couple years were disastrous for Bergia. Devon Arge and the BFF declared war on us, openly attacked our people, and occupied entire cities. It was a massive uprising, but I'd like to point out that the longest time they were in control of a city was 2 weeks. I wouldn't call that an occupation. Despite the arrests of the Onarge in 1944 and the BFF ceasing its activities, the special status of the region were never revoked. Today, the special zone of Berge gives the governor insane amounts of authority. He was in trouble with the law before for not following the central government's authority. Unfortunately, Berge also has its own police forces, directly commanded by Governor Braun. They are not part of my ministry and only cooperate when they are forced to do so. This is a problem. Even though our forces have the authority to serve in Berge, the special zone leaves the security of Berge mostly in the hands of the governor. That leaves my hands tied. Yeah, the discrimination in Bergia surface is maddening. We should find a way to revoke the special status of Bergia one way or another. No, we must reverse the situation. It's absurd that the Ministry of Interior doesn't have full control over Bergia's security. I agree. I have some ideas about it already, but we can talk about it about that at a later time. Near gestured at Leleas. What's the second most important threat? It's the gang violence that is threatening the Nargis and Anglan regions. Two prominent organized crime families are at war, and the potential for bloodshed is real. Which two crime families? One is known as the Coronelli, and the other the Skinner cartel. They used to be allies until a recent disagreement. Both are active in the cities of Narbel and Estord. Yeah, Lilias, I trust that you can handle them. I am doing my best, sir. Lilias sighed deeply. I shall be honest with you. With our current capabilities, we may not be able to prevent the further arming of separatists by maintaining order in Bergia, Nargis, and England. If the law enforcement budget isn't increased, I can't be fully responsible for what happens. Our police units are spread thin as it is. In light of this information, yeah, fuck. I don't want to. Okay, it's not my priority, but I will consider maybe, perhaps, increasing the law enforcement budget. We will rid our country from separatists and violent thugs if you do so. I wish you'd stop using the word thugs, Elias. The real problem is corruption, which is fueling the gang violence and is very likely the reason why these weapons were smuggled in. A high budget could help us end that. Higher budget could help us end that. Your ministry must tackle the issue with persistence, Miss Morna. We are, but it needs all the attention it can get from our administration. Leas and Nia were openly scowling at each other. Leas turned back to her notes. Well, this concludes the topics for the internal portion. Thank you for the updates, Miss Graf, Miss Morna. Thank you for the overview. Have a good day. Until next time. Two ministers left the room. We took a short break before continuing to the second part. And in that short break, we will call this an episode. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.